You'll still be able to see it. All right. I'm going to share my screen. Start from the beginning. Welcome everybody to Navigating a Fleece Show. This presentation was first made for the Chesapeake Fibershed Sustainable Cloth Cohort. The recording got stopped in the middle, so I'm re-recording this, and it will also be on my YouTube channel. I should explain that I'm a level 2 ASI classer. That means that I've taken the classes and that I've had my hands on over 100,000 pounds of wool. That's what it takes to become a level 2 classer. So I wanted to talk about the local shows that we have. Of course, Maryland Sheep and Wool. It's coming up in only a couple of weeks. There are only wool fleeces at that show because it is sheep and wool. There are somewhere between 800 and 900 fleeces for sale every year. So that's just a huge number. They do limit the number of fleeces per producer, and the producers can decide if they want them to be judged or if they just want to have them for sale. If they want to have them judged, they do have to go on sale. The shepherds set the price, and we'll talk about prices in a minute because they vary widely depending on the breed, how rare the breed is, the quality of the fleece, and sometimes they put extravagant prices on them because they want the fleece to be judged because they want to get the ribbon, but they don't really want to sell it. So that's why some prices are just way up there. It backfired on one person I know because even though she put an exorbitant price on $60 a pound, I believe, it still sold. So it doesn't always guarantee that it won't sell. But just so that you know that, if you see a price that's way out of whack, that might be why. In September, there's the Shenandoah Valley Fiber Festival. They take in all kinds of fleeces. So there you'll find alpaca, mohair, wool. I have never seen any cashmere there, and I haven't seen any Angora rabbit. All the fleeces are given comments. Again, they limit the number of fleeces per producer. And they have somewhere in the neighborhood of 400 to 500 fleeces. So the fleeces are given comments by the people who are taking them in. Those people are not fleece judges per se, but they are people who have a lot of experience spinning. They could be producers themselves. It's a big job. And then in October, there's the Fall Fiber Festival down in Montpelier. And again, all kinds of animal fleeces, and you get it's the smallest of the 3 shows, but there's really nice quality at that show. I've gotten some very nice alpaca fleeces there, and you can find some fleeces that you wouldn't find at Maryland because they're coming from producers that maybe are in southern Virginia. So here's the setup. The fleeces are grouped with other similar fleeces. And what I mean by that is that they are going to be in groups of long wools. All the long wools are going to go there. So you're going to find your Leicester long wools, your BFLs, your Teeswaters, your Wensleydales, things like that in that area. You're going to have your medium fleeces. And if it's a big category, like say Romney, they might also have a sign that says Romney there, but you're going to have your medium nice fleeces there. And then you're going to have your fine fleeces, which are your Merinos, your Cormos, your Corriedales, things like that. At a place like Maryland Sheep and Wool, where you have 800 to 900 fleeces, you've got fleeces on the tables, up on top of each other. You've got fleeces underneath the tables. And at the start of the day, they are nicely grouped. But as the day wears on, they do get a little bit mixed up. So, just check around the general area if you're looking for specific fleeces. You cannot, especially at Maryland Sheep and Wool, you cannot lay out the fleeces. You can kind of open the bag and look in there. You can take out a lock to test it, but you cannot open up the whole fleece. At Shenandoah, They do have skirting tables up, so you can ask a volunteer. Do not do this by yourself. They will get mad. You can ask a volunteer to help you, and they will lay the fleece out for you so you can look at it more closely. And then they will go ahead and rewrap it the way that it's supposed to be wrapped. So here's about the prices. So at Maryland Sheep and Wool, they do have the pricing is very transparent, and there is the link where you can find the pricing for the last in-person show. So the prices that are up there right now are the 2019 prices, because 2020, 2021, we didn't have in-person shows, and people just sold off their websites. So it wasn't really a fleece show and sale. It's put in by breed, as you can see. It talks about the number of fleeces, how many total pounds those fleeces entail, and the average price of the fleece with the minimum and maximum listed there. Going across some more, you'll see how many were actually sold and for what price they were sold, the minimum price, the maximum price, and what the basic average price, and then how many were unsold, how many needed to come and be picked up. So if you look at the Blueface Leicester, the second one on the list, there were 35 fleeces, and all totaled, they were about 56 pounds. The average price was $27 a pound, with the minimum being 15 and the maximum being 60. That's the one I was telling you about that they didn't want to sell the fleece. They sold 26 of those for the average price of $28.96, so a little bit more than the average price. Probably skewed a little bit by that $60 price, because you can see that $60 per pound one was bought. So yeah, again, you can find this on the website. I don't think that Shenandoah, have not seen a list like this on their website. And I know that Montpelier doesn't do this either. So basically, you can find it for Maryland Sheep and Wool. And again, it's really nice to have that transparency there. And if you want to see what kind of fleeces are usually brought there, that also gives you a list of what you probably could find this year. There, of course, there might be some changes, like the Awazi fleece. There was one fleece. Maybe that person is not going to bring that fleece this year. Those rare breeds, you can't really tell. So the best practices are that the shepherds should be skirting that fleece before it comes, and especially if it's going to be judged, it's going to be well skirted. And by skirting the fleece, what I mean is that they're going to remove any wool that comes from the belly area, any wool that's on the top knot, and they're going to remove any of the poopy parts. Some of the places that are around the legs are also, if they're like felted, they may also be taken out, so that you should just have the nicest parts of the fleece there, especially if it's going to be judged. They're probably not as well skirted if they're just going to be sold, but you can do that yourself as well. The fleece is then folded up so that the wool that's on the outside of the bundle is what was nearest the skin. So it's going to be the cleanest side. You're going to be able to see the crimp really well from that side. But you still need to find out just how dirty the inside is. And you can kind of open up the bag a little bit and kind of move the fleece around. Don't undo it. Don't mess it up too much, because, they've gone to a lot of trouble to put this just right. But you can look and see what the level of veg matter is, what the level of dirt is. Now, a lot of people in our area have covered their fleeces. That means that from the moment that those fleece are shorn, a jacket, a canvas coat goes on top of them. And it's going to be very, very clean fleece. Again, the parts that are sticking out of that coat, like the head parts, the neck parts, some of the leg parts, those are going to be skirted out. You're not going to see those at all. This is going to be your most expensive fleeces, because it's really, really labor intensive to keep those sheep in their coats. and you are going to pay for the cleanliness. And, in a lot of fleeces, especially if it's a fine wool fleece where it's really hard to get out the veg matter, you probably want to pay for that covered fleece. It will be a lot better cleaning and spinning experience for you to have a covered fleece. I say that they're very labor intensive because as the wool grows, you need a bigger jacket. So you're out there changing those jackets, every like once a month at least. And when you get into a new jacket, it's never the right size. So you're always like, trying to make knots in it or do something so that the animal stays in the coat, that an arm doesn't come through the neck, an arm doesn't go somewhere that it shouldn't go and kind of lame up your animal. So it is a lot of work, but like I said, you pay for the cleanliness and it can be really, really worth it. So faults, sometimes you just have fleeces that just quite are not quite up to snuff. The first thing that you need to do, like I said, you're going to be taking out a lock. This is obviously a dyed lock, but you're going to take a lock out and you're going to just take one lock. So I'm going to try to do this so I can see. You're going to take one lock out like that. Okay. You haven't ruined the rest of the fleece. You're taking one lock out. From this lock, you first are going to test it for length. And the minimum length is about 2.5 inches. When we do our classing for length, we're looking for 3. I would really think that unless it's a lamb fleece that's extremely soft, you probably want to look for at least 3 inches. This is a BFL fleece, and so this is about 6 inches long. Shorter fleeces are harder to work with whether you're doing it by hand. And if you're going to take it to the mills to help you process it, they might send it back and say, we can't do it. It's too short. I've had that happen with some lamb fleeces that they were like 2.5 inches. They were a little too short. So I had to do it by hand. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to test it for strength. And by doing that, you're going to hold it on each side of the lock and you're going to snap it. If it comes apart with that kind of effort, it's not a good fleece. There's something wrong. Something happened to the animal along the way. It was under some kind of stress. The other thing to do is to do that next to your ear. And sometimes you can hear parts cracking. And again, that would mean it might be a little bit delicate and you might want to not have that fleece. And the other thing is, make sure that it's a good size lock that you're pulling out. I mean, if you pull out something that's very teeny tiny, wispy, that's easy to break. That can be broken. So that's why you want to take a whole lock to test that, so that you're looking at the correct test for strength. Now, if this is a ram or a buck fleece, then you want to make sure you do a smell test. And a smell test never hurts because you also want to make sure that the fleece was kept in a dry place. So it shouldn't smell like mildew. It shouldn't smell moldy. And it shouldn't smell like a ram too much unless it's at like a really good price. You can get those smells out through washing. So if it's a beautiful fleece, you really like it, but it's a little bit male stinky, you can get that out. But if it's something that's been not kept well and it has some mold on it, you probably want to pass that up. You're not going to find that at a fleece sale, but you might find that if you were going to buy directly from a producer, because you don't know how long that fleece has been around, or where they stored it, if they stored it in the barn or their basement or whatnot. And then you just need to visually look. You're going to look for how much veg matter is in it, how much hay is in it. There's always going to be some, because it's a farm animal. And so unless it's a coated one, you're always going to have some veg matter, and that's okay. because that's just happens. Um, Especially with mohair fleeces, you're going to have you look for something that they call scurf, and scurf is like a big kind of dandruff, and it isn't water soluble, so it doesn't come out in the wash. You can comb it out, but it's kind of a pain to do that. And if it's, again, you would not find moths or moth larvae in a show fleece that's at a fleece sale. But if it's from a producer, you might. So just be sure to look for those kind of things. Any kind of bugs, that kind of stuff. So here's some pictures of some problems that you might find. And these are problems with length. On the left, you have a fleece where you can see where I've circled that it's a little bit lighter in color. And that is actually a weakened area and the story behind this fleece was that this ram got attacked by a bald eagle and had some pretty serious cuts on it. And it took him a long time to recover. And so all that time that it was taking the animal to recover physically, the energy was going towards the healing and not towards wool production. And this cut was right dead center in the staple length. So it wasn't 3 inches on either side. Again, because this was a merino, so it was maybe a 4-inch fleece. So you had like 2 inches and 2 inches. So it couldn't be used. It had to be thrown out, which is just heartbreaking. It was a beautiful color. But these things happen. On the other side, you've got a fleece where you have a lot of second cuts in there, or again, one that might have had some kind of issues with it. There's just a lot of breaks and a lot of small pieces in it. That is also not going to be great for you to use. Those small pieces, whether you card them or whether you comb them, are not going to integrate well with the rest of the fleece. And you're going to lose a lot. And so you want to avoid that fleece for sure. And again, by looking at the fleece, even if you're looking at just the outside of what's in the bag, you should be able to see some of those issues. And doing a strength test for sure. You need to do that. Now, here's some problems with uniformity. And so this is what I'm going to be talking about is called medullated fibers. What it is that instead of having fiber all the way through, that these fibers are hollow. And so kind of like when we get gray hair and those hairs come in a lot coarser, that you're going to have these not uniform pieces of fiber in there, and it's going to cause a problem. On the right-hand side, what you see there is actually called Kemp, and that means that it's just a really thick one of those medullated fibers. If you were to wash that and card that and spin it, those fibers are going to poke out of your spin, and they're going to hit you in the neck, and it's going to be really scratchy. And there really isn't a way to work those out. Because there's so many of them. The one on the fleece on the left, those are what we are more typical of medullated fibers. And they're, even though it's ununiform, there's a lot more of them. And you can see that they're very different than the brown fleece underneath them. And again, it's not going to be pleasant to spin. If it's going to be something that you're going to work into a felting project, or it's going to be a home textile and it's a really good price, you might still go for the one on the left. I would still probably avoid the one on the right, just personally, because that has really big hairs in it. One of the things that a lot of meat producers have done is that they have crossed their wool sheep with hair sheep. And that's part of how you get these kind of fibers in there, because then you have a cross. And so some of the wool growing glands are for hair, and some of the wool growing glands are for wool. And so that's how you get some of these problems with uniformity. So all of the same things apply when you're buying directly from a producer. If you are, of course, those people are going to let you see the whole fleece. You can lay it out before you buy it, and I suggest that you do, so that you can see what you're getting. And you need to be just as diligent about length and strength. You need to be really diligent about smelt and feeling it to make sure that it's not damp, that there aren't bugs in it, that there isn't mold or scurf. You're still going to have the same kinds of things where you have veg matter because it's a farm animal, and farm animals eat hay. Um, some buying tips for you. You may fall in love with a fleece that's just too expensive, and you can always split a fleece with a friend. You have to buy the whole fleece from the fleece show. But two people, I can go and buy it, and then you can pay me for half and we can split it, right? Or we can divide it into threes. So you may find a friend that you both say, yeah, that's the kind of fleece that I want. Let's go in halvesies with it. Or if you're hanging around a little bit and you see somebody else that's ogling that same fleece, and typically this has happened with some of the fleeces that have won awards. But if you see somebody else that's ogling that same fleece, then you go ahead and make a deal so that you can both have part of it. Typically, fleeces are really pretty big. You can get at least two sweaters out of a fleece, out of a BFL fleece, and they don't have belly hair. And so, for other animals, like for a cormo, you could probably get three sweaters out of one cormo fleece, or definitely a Corriedale fleece. You could probably get four. I mean, there's just a lot of fleece there. My other tip for you is, unless you're looking for a particular breed of fleece, or you're looking for a particularly popular breeder, then wait until later on Saturday afternoon or go on Sunday. You don't have to be waiting in that line. You don't have to be part of the madness that is there on Saturday morning. Yeah, it's fun to be in, the frenzy of it all. But if it's your first time and you really want to take your time with it, go at a time that is better for you so that you can look. And like I said, with Maryland Sheep and Wool, there's 800, 900 fleeces, and they didn't sell all of them. You saw how many they didn't sell. So, there's still something there for you. It's not all the crummy ones that are left on Sunday. There's some really nice ones too. I mean, at Shenandoah, my booth is in the same building as the fleece sale, and I know there's still lovely, lovely fleeces left on Sunday. So, if and like I said, if there's something particular, some rare breed or a particular breeder, you want to get a Jeff Rupert Corriedale fleece, don't go on Saturday, go on Sunday. Good. So we could go around and people can tell us about their projects. Anybody would like to go first?
Well, I'll say something just so that because nobody will have a sillier project than me. I got obsessed with making doll clothes in COVID.
Oh, fun.
For my grandmother's little 19th century doll, you know, the China head and the China arms and feet, and did all sorts of I used to do costumes for theater, so I'm trying to do historically accurate clothing, so Victorian period. But so I thought, well, I'd like to do it now with in response to your challenge, and try and make her a ecologically conscious Victorian lady, which of course she wouldn't have been. she would have loved those aniline dyes. But let's see if I can. How can I make the video? Oh, wait a minute. There we go.
There you go.
So so these are some upcycled like linen napkins. Dyed where I have a small botanical dye garden, so this is my first yield from madder after.
Oh, nice.
And alkanet, and then doing some other, probably some sort of winter coat things going on with the botanical dyes a la Nicola Brown. And oh, and I also have good results with weld. That's actually a much prettier yellow. So it'll be sort of yellow, purple colors, and haven't quite figured out what her outfit's going to be yet, but I have been doing a lot of dyeing of different materials. And of course, at some point she'll have to have something knitted. So, but that'll be a lot easier.
How big is she?
10 inches. So I don't use a lot of material.
That sounds like a fun project, though.
Marion has aided me in this. We both got obsessed with doing this. And so I had to buy a second doll because my grandmother's doll was a blonde. And at the time I had no fabrics that worked for blondes because I'm not a blonde. So I now have a second one. So hopefully there'll be two of them in some sort of 1850s to 1880s attire, but all responsibly either recycled or handmade.
Beautiful. Anyone else? Kate?
Okay, so last time you had a picture of my poncho, but I didn't like it. So now, I mean, I do this. So I'm knitting a cardigan. So I'm frogging as I go along. So, and then it's a top-down raglan sleeve cardigan, and I'm going to steek it.
Oh, fun.
Yeah. So
for us non-knitters, what does that mean?
Oh, that means that I have a section that it makes it so I can knit the whole thing in the round. Mm-hmm. And then when I'm finished knitting, I can cut the section, the middle front section, I can cut down it.
Okay.
And it'll stay. Then I can fold it back and pick up for a button panel.
Cool.
And it's much easier than knitting back and forth.
Who knew?
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
So you're taking out, so you're frogging, so you're taking out the poncho and knitting the sweater, right?
Yeah. So
yeah,
here's
cool.
the poncho being taken apart.
Cool.
But I didn't unwind it because I thought I'll just knit from that.
Yeah.
And then
like a sock blank.
That is a challenge.
Yeah. And then also I have a take along project, which is a pair of socks I haven't written down what yarn this is. I think I got it. I think this is a Solitude wool yarn. And I haven't decided if I'm going to dye the socks when I'm finished knitting them or not.
That's fabulous.
Yeah.
Is your poncho just all the natural colors of the wool? That's what it looks like?
Yes.
It's gorgeous. Or
Yeah,
the evolving poncho is gorgeous.
Yeah. And I think I like the sweater better because the colors end up closer together than they were on the poncho because it was so long. And I just was looking up, I was thinking about, buttons, and I thought, well, there's probably somebody around who makes buttons, but then I thought I'll do a knitted button, and I found a pattern for a knitted acorn button.
Ooh,
That
fun.
would be great.
Yeah, so I think I'm gonna do that.
Oh, this sounds so neat.
Yeah, we can't wait to see that. That'll be neat.
I hope you're taking pictures of this process, like of the frogging and knitting simultaneously. That's kind of cool to have a document of that.
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm not afraid to completely finish a project, decide I'm really not going to use it or I'm not that happy, and then I just frog the whole thing. Because I knit for the pleasure, so who cares?
Yeah. Next.
I can say something.
Okay.
Not specific progress on, my project, but I've been thinking about, what breeds I'm looking for my sweater. Probably something medium. And I was really interested in tunis. Does anyone use tunis?
Used what?
Goodness.
Yeah.
It's like
Knit? Yeah.
Tunis. Yeah.
it's a breed that this farm that I have volunteered at a lot, they were actually raising, and they actually sheared them a couple days ago, but I don't know if I'll be able to access that fiber. We'll have to see. I'm not waiting on it, but apparently it's one that does pretty well in our climate, so it's interesting.
Yeah. And it's a dual breed, so that it has nice fiber, and it also is a meat breed.
Mm-hmm.
So it's it's a medium wool, so it should spin up really nice. Oh, or you could felt with it too.
Yeah, so I'll look at that. Maybe I'll try to find some yarn that was made from it first, so I can actually see what it feels like. But besides that, I'm kind of taking a practice step of making a hand spun cardigan. So that's kind of gearing me up to spinning for a full garment, and then knitting that, wrapping my mind around how much fiber that actually takes, more than I thought. And so that's fun. And I have my dye seedlings started. And yeah, just excited to go to this festival I've never been to before.
Yeah, it'll be great. Definitely stop by to say hi, because I probably won't be at the table.
Yeah, you'll have a great time. There's so much to see.
So much to see.
Yeah. All for me.
Great. Anybody else? Ria?
Okay, so our team has been pretty busy lately. Can you allow me to share the screen, my screen?
Yeah. Hold on. I have to find you first. There we go. You should be able to do it now.
Okay, thank you. All right. So our team,
Oh, wow.
it's been busy. We are now getting into the spinning, the weaving stage. And this is just a corner of a rectangle loom where we're spinning, weaving part of our piece, part of our fabric. And this is going to be felted. So the actual process is will result in a biased fabric. So it will be, it will bend around corners, bend around circles pretty well. The challenge with weaving is frequently on a floor loom is that getting a biased fabric is difficult and it's a lot of waste. So this is one technique to use to get a biased fabric. So the rectangle loom looks
Wow,
like,
look at that. That looks like fun.
and you are essentially weaving 4 squares. So it's all finger weaving. So it's a continuous strand. So there's 0 waste, which is quite lovely. So you can see I'm not too far along, but I'm far along enough to give a good example of what this looks like.
Yeah, it looks great.
I did do some samples, some small samples, and we were looking at different yarn grists and how they felted after they were taken off of the loom. So I have these little samples that I've done. So they're not terribly exciting, but it's pretty exciting to us.
So that the sample that you have, if it felted up that much,
Yes,
yeah, that looks really great.
40%.
Wow.
So one is 30% shrinkage and another one is 40% shrinkage. So the finer the grist, the more you had to shrink it to get it to felt to a nice consistency. So, and then here's our weaver, and she is starting to wind the warp. And we've got yarn from 6 different spinners. And so the warp is being, all the spinners are contributing to the warp and to the weft. So that has been a challenge for our team in terms of creating consistent yarn and something that will add also. One of the things that we learned is that some of the inconsistencies from spinner to spinner actually make a very nice fabric. And we have a sample fabric from our weaver, and where we were sampling set along with striping patterns with the 3 colors of wool that will be in the warp. So it's we're pleased with it. There's the side,
Beautiful.
the other side. So we have a large team, and the spinners are working on spinning up the weft now, while Mary warps the loom. So that's where our team is.
So I have a question. How long does it take to set up the loom for something like this? It looks like it's very labor intensive.
Well, setting up a loom does take some time. It all depends on what your set is. If you have 12 ends per inch, it won't take as long as if you have something that's 60 ends per inch. So I think it all depends on how many ends per inch your warp is. So it can take anywhere from, just a few hours to many days.
Yes.
I have a question.
Mhm.
I'm curious about so the piece that you are felting that came off of the square no waste loom, is that is that a standalone piece and then the woven piece is another, or will they come together in your final garment?
They will come together.
Okay. So, and this is you're making a cape, is that right? Or
I haven't really revealed what we're making.
oh, okay, cool. Nice. The mystery piece. But they are coming together. That's so exciting. That loom is really beautiful. Did someone in your group build it, or is that the rectangular loom?
No, it's called a homestead loom.
It's beautiful.
Can be turned into a rectangle loom or a 7-foot triangular loom.
Okay, because we have smaller triangular looms. I just hadn't seen I mean, it's the same concept, and it's such a great way of weaving. Yeah, thank you. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it is. So what's nice is that it's very versatile. The triangle part, it can be adjustable anywhere from, I think it's 4 feet to 7 feet when you assemble this into a triangle. So I really like it. I've made triangles, and this is my first try at making a very large rectangle.
Beautiful. Thank you.
So it's about 6 yards one way around the rectangle loom. And it takes me about 15 minutes to go one way around the loom. So I'll let you know how long it takes, because the further in I get, the longer it takes, because there's more over under.
Cool. That's neat.
I'd love to hear more about how that loom works. I'm not familiar with that at all. So I mean, if there's, or maybe maybe that's something for a different time, but I'm kind of I'm curious about it.
Yeah.
There are lots of videos actually on YouTube on how to use how to do continuous strand weaving.
Okay.
And it's really nice, especially if you have valuable hand spun, and you just want a triangular cape, or a shawl, or you want a shawl with no waist, but you want it woven. These are really great options.
And there's probably somebody that has them for sale at the Sheep and Wool.
I don't know. I haven't seen them. You'd have to look, I think.
I've seen them a few years ago, not recently, but I did see them a few years ago.
Just why is it lighter weight if it's if one strand continuously? Can you explain the math of that to me?
Can you restate your question?
You said it was going to be lighter weight because it's that continuous strand, just one. So, and I'm trying to figure out why. I'm sure there's a mathematical answer, but I.
Okay, no, I'm sorry. So we tried different yarn grists. And so I just did a 15-inch by 15-inch square. And we tried different thicknesses of yarn. And so and to see how each would felt and whether we were happy with the result. It's the same thing. We sort of did the same thing with our weaving sample, where we sampled 2 different sets. So it's almost similar technique, sampling technique, where you have more spaces in between more space between each of the picks. Whereas if you have a thicker grist, you have less space between the picks. And so it takes less felting and to get down to a piece that we would want to use.
Okay, thank you. Now I can see what you mean.
Anybody who would like to go next?
I can talk.
You want me to share your
Yeah, that would be awesome. Thank
Okay.
you. So basically, we've been working on putting together a garden bed. Mostly the one we're working on right now has been for indigo because all of our projects are going to involve indigo. So our theme is to have a shared garden together and we're all going to use the dyes, but we're all going to make separate projects. So most of us are primarily using indigo. So we've been putting together 2 beds. If you can go to the next slide, I think it'll show our process. These are our indigo seeds from indigo that me and my mom have been growing together for many years. But the next slide, I think there's some of our bed. So we're putting together 2 beds, and they'll both have indigo, and then we'll grow some other beds for a few other plants. They're pretty small, but they hopefully will have enough indigo for. There's 3 of us that are doing projects with mostly indigo, and then one of us is doing a project with sewing that is going to have little hints of different things and maybe a little indigo, but not a whole bunch of one thing. But yeah, the process of the garden that we've been doing is we've been making a no-till garden because tilling really disrupts a lot of the microorganisms in the earth. So the process that we started with was we started with really just dirt, and then we weeded all the grass and other things out, and then we covered it in cardboard and different kinds of things to stop the growth of more weeds. And then from there, we wet everything and left it for a little while to stop the growth of all the plants underneath. And then we actually planted right on top by adding more soil. And from there, we'll plant all our seeds. And the thought is that over the next years, basically the cardboard will compost, and underneath everything, the dirt underneath will be ready for planting. So the first year it'll be good, but the thing about these beds is the more years, the better the ground underneath gets, and the whole thing turns into a nice garden. But yeah.
Cool. That's neat. It's fun to see all the work that you guys did.
Yeah, and I personally have been working on my project is I'm planning to make a blanket, and I was starting with I was gonna knit it, but then I also have a triangle loom, and I was working on I had this Jacob, and I was making triangles with it, and I was like, oh, well, this is not the right size. The loom is just too small to actually be a shawl. And I was like, what if I made a whole bunch of these triangles and then sewed them together to make my blanket? So I think my new idea is instead of knitting, I'm going to weave my blanket. So this is Jacob that I got at the Maryland Sheep and Wool Festival. It is Maryland based, the farm, but I don't remember the farm, so I'm not sure if I'll use these ones. These ones might just be sort of test runs, and I have 2 of them, but this is something that I spun a few years ago, and I was just using it, but we'll see what happens. And I would like to add some blue, so I'm probably gonna do something else, but yeah.
Cool. That's really nice. Anyone else?
I can kind of be along with Ava and say that I spent most of my time recently planting in the garden and getting the dye plants out there and just sort of still planting. I really want to, I went through my entire stash of yarn and fibers, and I have almost nothing from the watershed, which is actually kind of fascinating considering how much I actually have. So I'm really concentrating at Maryland Sheep and Wool, really like, what can I get to really be local and be conscious of that? Because I've never, up until now, I haven't really thought about it very much, to be honest. I mean, I've done natural dyeing, but I haven't really thought about where the dyes come from, or if I'm growing them, or if I'm buying them. Just kind of changing that focus of buying things because of the way they feel or look, and now I'm thinking more about buying them because of where it's coming from. So I'm planning to do not a lot of shopping, but very conscious shopping at Maryland. Yeah. I'm struggling with the fact that I have so much, so I don't want to just kind of buy, but trying to figure out what I can, how I can sort of change the way I'm viewing it.
Do you have an idea of what you want to make?
Probably a shawl, because that's what I tend to wear more than anything else. Oh, I like the blanket idea. That's kind of fun too.
Yeah. Neat. Well, we'll see you there in a couple of weeks.
Yes. And so I'm going to be working, Amy from Ross Farm, I'm going to be working in her booth, but unfortunately she's just outside of the Fibershed.
Yeah.
She doesn't count. So she's still a friend that I'm going to help her out.
Yeah. and you'll find a lot there too, I think.
Yeah.
Teresa, would you like to share where you're at?
I've been looking into different places to find yarn and haven't had a lot of luck because I want to weave and make a shirt, but I really want thin yarn. And like I said before, I don't think that's going to happen. That means Maryland Sheep and Wool is going to be a heck of a lot of fun though, because I'm going to have a lot of things to ask about and try and buy. I did decide, because I got frustrated trying to find a locally made pattern, that I'm just going to take an old shirt of mine and use it to create a muslin and try and pin it so that pin the shirt I have so that I can make a muslin so that hopefully I have a shirt that's going to be semi-fitted in the end. I might be thinking a little too highly of my skills, but we'll see.
It's good to have goals, right?
Exactly.
It's also good to challenge yourself to go.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it should be fun. I've been spending most of my time lately making an Olaf costume for my daughter's play. So it would be nice to get into something that's not polyester felt.
Yeah. Kirsten, where are you at in your project?
I'm not that much further along. I actually it looks kind of almost 1 inch shorter than when I last. I'm down to my waist on my sweater.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. And I ripped out a bit. I was not happy with the decrease on the side. It's, it's kind of a very thin sweater. It's almost lacy. And so I didn't like the shaping. And so when I started the top, the cowl piece, I was on like a size 9 needle, and I just kept moving down as I, got to my yoke. And so at the waist, I just moved down to, I'm on a size 7 needle now. So it was like a simple way to decrease without any stitches, but then I figured out how I wanted to do it. And then I'm running out of yarn. So I spun up some more of this. It's a BFL Cross California Red from Sweet Gum Farm. And it was such a joy. I was like, just because I spun most of this yarn about 1.5 years ago, and I forgot how lovely this fleece was. And it's an interesting blend, California Red and BFL. So it's very springy, but it still has like a beautiful halo like to it. So it takes the dye really well, and it's going to go at the bottom. So there might be, and I'm waiting for my indigo to grow because I'll do a fresh leaf dye with it. So yeah, and then my woad is growing pretty well. Most of it is going to seed this year, and I've got all kinds of baby plants going. So I'm hoping that I'll be able to sort of do some comparisons of woad extraction and indigo extraction by the middle of the summer. And I'll start another piece that will be fully dedicated to like working with the woad. So not sure what that's going to be yet.
I have a question about the fleece. So
Yeah.
California Reds tend to be kind of an oatmeal color, but since it's a cross, like is it more of an oatmeal kind of color, or is it?
It is.
Whiter?
It does have. I just washed some of the locks today. It does actually have. Yeah, it's actually kind of more cream colored.
Okay.
Not oat. But yes, I know what you mean because I've seen California Red has. So this particular fleece is not. It's more cream color. It's very bright. And yeah, it's just a joy. Yeah, it's so nice when you work with beautiful fleeces. So that's all I have. I'm working on the whole garden, so that's keeping me busy. Lisa's given me some madder so I can replant my madder bed, and I have started seeds, and they're just doing beautifully. So hope to share some pictures of the garden next month.
Well, my sweater is coming along too. I've gotten past the sleeves and am on the body. So just working away. When it gets towards the bottom, there will be some lace on the bottom. So it will have some interest at the bottom. So I'm excited about that. And I showed you all my little samples that I made. And Marion, what about you?
I think as I blatantly splurted out at the beginning, is that even a word? Blurted out at the beginning. I have gotten nothing done on my projects other than I did source some cotton fabric from Sistari that's supposed to have been made from Virginia cotton. So I'm very excited about that. I'm going to use that to make the pillow forms inside my pillows using the wool that I got from you for the stuffing. I'm still the next 2 weeks are totally devoted to making the backdrop.
Yeah.
So that's where my time is going. Hopefully you'll all like it when you see it.
And I think that should count too. It's still a textile, right?
It is a textile, definitely. Nothing else, it may end up a rug somewhere one day. You never know. So that's what I've got going.
That's cool. And remember to put June 26th on your calendars because we will be meeting out at Lady Farmer's Farm. After Sheep and Wool, I'll put out a newsletter that will have like a potluck sign up. So we're going to have a potluck out there. We're asking, we want to do it kind of a zero waste thing. So we're asking people to bring a cup and a plate and utensils and a cloth napkin. Our plan is to have a couple of indigo vats for fun. We can bring our projects and it's supposed to be, just a fun community event where we can see each other in person and do some fun things all together.
What time?
We made it from 11 to, you guys remember?
3, I believe.
11 to 3.
Where is that? Like
It's in Poolsville,
Virginia?
Maryland.
Okay. Let me see how far away that is.
Yeah. Do you remember the name of her farm?
Three Graces.
Three Graces. And they've been nice to host us out there. So we'll have more information. We really wanted to get through the Maryland Sheep and Wool, the table and all that stuff. And then our next project will be to get the picnic together. And our final get together will be October 24th, and that will be at Lee Langstaff's farm, Shepherd's Hay. That's in.
She's in Frederick.
No, I was going to Comus. She's in Comus. She's off of 270 in Maryland. And hopefully we'll have a little fashion show, or we'll be able to show our stuff that we've done. So keep that in mind as we get closer and closer to the end date.
Okay, so that's our show date.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
October 24th. That will be in the afternoon sometime. Again, we haven't firmed up those. We have the date, but we haven't firmed out the rest of the information yet. And next month we're having Patty Sandville and Bridget Brown are going to talk about, if you bought a fleece at Sheep and Wool, now what do you do with it? How to skirt it, how to process it, wash it, that kind of stuff.
Very cool.
Oh, our team went through all of that.
I know you guys have a lot of experience.
Yeah.
Right. Right. You could teach that. And also, if anyone knows of any fiber events or anything that they think they want to share with everyone, let us know through the Chesapeake Fibershed Gmail so we can put it up on the website calendar. Always good to know what's going on.
Yeah.
Well, the Maryland State Fair is happening at the end of August. It's 3 weekends, 3 long weekends.
Mm-hmm.
They have a in their home arts building, they have a competition for hand weaving.
Okay, so yeah, we should put probably all the state fairs or county fairs, I should say.
Yeah, they're all in my project plan.
Okay.
We're going to try to make the rounds.
Fantastic.
That's great. So, well, you guys have been inspiring today. It's like I need to get busy.
Yeah.
This is great.
I have a couple things this weekend. So we all missed it. Scotchtown had their first fiber festival. And I didn't find out about it until this week. So I thought you would be interested. And then coming up next weekend at Bacon's Castle, it just says a craft fair. So I don't know what they're going to have at that. And if any of you know where to have woven labels made that are in the Fibershed, I've ordered some woven labels that say Chesapeake Fibershed to sew into my things, but I know I'll have more than enough, but they're made in New Jersey, I think.
It's close.
Yeah, and I just thought having a label that says Chesapeake Fibershed would focus that attention.
Yeah, that's really
Exactly.
cool.
That's on what that was on one of our lists as well. And Ava just pointed out the 24th is Monday. So I think it's October 23rd will be our final. Sorry about that, you guys. Thank you, Ava. I'm gonna write it on my calendar right now. Okay.
It takes a village, right?
Yeah, it does sometimes.
Right.
Awesome. Thanks, Kate, for that information.
Is that will there be an indoor venue?
It's kind of like an indoor outdoor, like it's sheltered in a way. I haven't actually been there to see it, but it's not totally out in the open.
It's like a covered pavilion type of
Something like that. Yeah. Has anybody been there that would know?
I haven't been there, but my understanding was that it was sort of a barn-ish structure that's got an inside so that we can have things inside
Yeah, and the weather, it's October, so.
Mhm.
And it's called Shepherd's
Shepherd's Hay.
Shepherd's Hay, H-E-Y.
H-E-Y. All right, looking at it now.
Okay, so keep on making, you guys. And think about, definitely stopping by the table or think about volunteering for the table. And we'll see you again in May.
Right. Hopefully at the Sheep and Wool, and then after that for the next May session.
Exactly.
Bye,
See you
everybody.
then.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for showing up.
Thanks, Lisa.